Hi, this is Kate from Izzalicious Designs. Today I'm going to show you how to do the base of the head for the clowns. Okay, so you're going to need two colours, the white for the face, and then whatever colour you pick for your hair. Now, Joker here has green hair, and Pennywise and Ronald McDonald have red hair. I'm going to do mine today with red because when I do the tutorials for these I need two heads. So as I said, we're just going to do the base head for the clown. That's all this is going to be. When we actually do the tutorial for each and every one of these, we'll use the base head, and then we'll move on to the body and individually do the tutorial. Okay, but the base head is very important. So I'll put these to one side and we will do, as I said, the base. I'm doing red and white. The other things that you're going to need is a stitch marker of some kind. I use these little ones, I really like them, but you could use a bobby pin, a safety pin, a safety clip, a safety pin, anything like that really, just to hold your stitches. You can use an S clip, a C clip, doesn't matter. The two colours that you're choosing, and I use a 2.75 crochet hook. It's just the size that I prefer. It is going to be a bit of a tricky one, okay? So bear with me, have some patience. We're starting with a magic ring of 6, okay? But in every stitch, you're putting 2 extra bands, all right? So start with your, and if you need to do a tutorial on how to do magic ring or how to do any of these stitches, I have a playlist called Loomigurumi Tips and Tricks. It goes through each of these stitches very slowly and in depth. Okay, it's a quick little video, but it shows you very clearly how to do things. So please, let's not have any whining that you don't know how to do the stitches or that I'm going too fast, because if you're doing this tutorial you should know how to do Loomigurumi already. All right, your first band, wrap it once and twice around your hook. We're doing a magic ring. I'm going to use my stitch marker just so that I can show you clearly how to do your magic ring. So with each stitch that we're doing, we are going to add 2 bands. Okay, so I'm going to put 2 bands on my hook, take my first stitch that I'm doing, move it across, and move my single band through and do my stitch. Okay, so again I'm going to take 2 bands, and this is every time we do a red stitch, this is what we're doing. 2 bands on first, take your band, and you're going to pull that, put that on. Actually, I should have gone through the magic ring first. Come here, magic ring. Through the magic ring. There we go. 2 bands on. The band that I'm actually going to be using, I sort of slide these 2 bands onto there to get them out the way. Slide it through, one over the other, and then through that. It can be a bit tricky, okay, especially when you're working in small little area like this. So through your magic ring, put your 2 bands on, grab your band, pull those so that they're out the way, and do your stitch. All right, through the magic ring. I'm going to take that off right now. Put your 2 bands on, get them out the way, and do your stitch. So these are trapping the little bands in each of the loops. Okay, so we've got a couple more to do here, I think, haven't we? Make sure you go through all 3 loops of the magic ring. We've got 2 more to do. So 2 bands on, here's your working stitch, pull it through, and voila. And here's our last stitch. Go through your magic ring. So you can either put the 2 bands on and hold them tight so you've got all the loops together like so, or put it on and flip those over out the way, whichever is easiest for you. Sometimes it's easier just to hold it all together, pull through and do your stitch. Okay, so here are our 6 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 1 on our hook. So our next round is an increase, which means we're having 2 in each, 2 stitches in each stitch. Okay, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 and 12. We're still just doing red, and we're still going to have to put 2 stitches in each one. So here is our first stitch here. Push your hook through. Okay, here's our first stitch. 2 bands on, and you're pulling your first band through. So that's number 1. Put your stitch marker on here. In that first stitch again, you're going back through that first stitch. 2 bands on, because we're doing an increase, so 2 stitches in every one. Here's our second stitch. Push your hook through. Oops, make sure you're just through those 2 loops. 2 bands. Here's your first stitch. And then back through that stitch. For your second stitch. And I hate when I do that. Let's try that again. Push your hook through, add your 2 bands, and there we go. Into our third stitch. 2 bands on your hook, pull through, and then we do our second stitch in there. Here's our third stitch. 2 bands. And back through for our second, for our increase. Here's our fourth stitch. Fourth, I don't know if it's fourth, I'm just saying fourth. Might not be. Here we go, 2. Oh, it was the 4th stitch, it's not our 4th. Yeah. This is the 6th stitch. Did I do 2 in there? I did. So we've got 2 more to do. Here we go. Here's our first one. And then we go back through. Oopsie, go away. You're messing up our count extra band. There we go. So we now have 12 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and the 12th is on our hook. This is how it's looking, okay? Now we have a variety of different colours. We're going to count out 9 white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, okay, and 2 over here, and then in the middle we're going to have 7 red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. This is a round of single crochet followed by an increase, okay. Where you have a red, you're going to add the 2. So our first stitch right here, okay, is a single crochet. Now because it's a colour change, we're going through and doing a slip stitch, okay, like so, and move your stitch marker into the second stitch, which is here, for an increase. We're doing single crochet, increase. You don't add any bands, okay, for this, for the white. Next stitch is single crochet, and the next one is an increase. 1, 2, single, increase. Now we change to red for our next stitch. We just did an increase, so it's going to be a single, but it's a colour change, so it's a slip stitch, okay. Oops, just one. So the other thing, we've changed to red. We have to use our extra 2. So I've gone through my stitch, I put my 2 extra on, and I grab my band, and I'm doing a slip stitch for the colour change. So slip it on, like so. The next stitch is an increase. So put my hook through, take 2 bands, pop them on. We're doing an increase. So here's our first one. Back through that stitch, grab our 2 bands and pull through like so. Single crochet, make sure you grab your 2 extra bands, and an increase in this stitch, 2 bands, oopsie, there we go. Back through that same stitch, make sure you're through that same stitch for our second stitch. Single crochet, add your 2 bands. Our next stitch is going to be a colour change to white, and it's in this little last red stitch. Okay, so go through the stitch. We just did, oh, it's an increase. Okay, so this, because we did increase, single crochet, so this last red stitch is an increase, but it is a colour change. So white band, slip stitch, and then back through that red stitch for a single crochet. This is part of our slip stitch, we ignore it. This is our real stitch here. Okay, so that's that round. The next round is 2 single crochets and an increase. Let's count out 11 white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And then the other end is 4, and in the middle we're going to have 9 red. So that's 4. Is that 4? That's 5. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Remember, when you're doing red, you have your extra little ones here. So our first stitch is white. It is not a colour change. 2 single crochets followed by an increase. First single crochet. Move your stitch marker. Next stitch, single crochet. Increase. 1, 2, single, single, increase. 1, 2, single, single, and in this last white stitch we're doing an increase. But if you notice, we've only got 1 white band left, so we know it's going to be a white band and a red band. So firstly, go through, do your first one, which is a single crochet, go through again. It's changing to red, so you need to put 2 on here, grab your red band, pull it through, and you're doing a slip stitch. Add your white band to it and over. All right, this is the slip stitch, this is the real stitch. So that was, we just did an increase. So go through, this is single, single crochet, the next stitch is a single, and in this stitch we do an increase. One, and back through, increase, single crochet, stitch is a single crochet. And we do an increase. So that's our first stitch, and then back through that stitch. Now we have to colour change. In this last red stitch, we're doing a white band in a single crochet, but we have to do a slip stitch because it's a colour change. So single crochet, single, and an increase in our last white stitch here. 1 and 2. See how it's starting to form? Alright, so now the next 8 stitches are nice because basically they're just single crochets. You don't have to worry about whether you're doing an increase or not. Okay, they're just single crochets. However, we still have our funky colours. So we've got 11 white now, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. And the bottom is here 3, 4, 5. And in the middle we'll have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Always where you have the red, we're going to do our extra 2 bands. So our first one is a single crochet. Move your stitch marker to that stitch. And we just do single crochets for these 11, okay? My cat is hogging my workspace. Now here we have a single crochet in our last white. We're colour changing. Miss that. See how that stitch goes down? It's the slip stitch where we've done the colour change. Skip the slip stitch and go into your real stitch. You're changing to red, so you need to do your 2 red bands. Bring your red band through and do a slip stitch for the colour change. Okay? Then in the next stitch, add your 2 extra bands, and it's just single crochet. We're not doing any increases. Just make sure you add your extra 2 bands, because if you don't, you'll end up just with a red and white head and it doesn't have the hair on it, and it's a waste of your time. I did it, and there I am going wrong, and I'm like, oh, something's looking very different about, oh, I haven't added hair, which was a bit silly. So back here, this is my last red stitch, so there's my 2 bands on there. So in my next stitch I'm doing a colour change, which means it's a slip stitch. So through that last red band and do my white slip stitch. Skip the slip stitch here and go into my real stitch, and we just finish off with single crochet. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So that was our first round of single crochet. Our second round is going to be 10 white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10, then 9 red, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 5 white. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Move your stitch marker to your first stitch. This is my last white stitch here, but as you can see I've still got a white stitch there. So I'm going through my last white stitch, adding 2 red bands. We're doing a colour change, so it is a slip stitch, like so, okay? And then skip your little slip stitch here and go into your real colour, your real stitch. And we do our single crochets. You need to add your hair. Here's my last stitch here for red. So this next white stitch, that's my slip stitch for colour changing. This is my real stitch. We're doing a slip stitch because we're colour changing again. There we go. And we finish with our single crochets. Starting to take shape. Alright, our third round is 9 white, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we have 5, 3, 4, 5 of the white, and then in the middle we're going to have 10 red. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So first one, move your stitch marker to this. And as you guys know, I don't count my bands. I make sure I have an entire bag of bands at my disposal. I tip my new bag in and off I go. So I really don't count the bands. And if I go through more than one bag of a band colour, I'll let you know. But tiny tots usually do not. So here we go, this is my last white. So now changing to red, I've got to go through that last white stitch. 2, my cat's snoring. And here's my slip stitch. There we go. Skip that little one there, go into the real stitch. There we go. Just doing single crochets. Try and push the hair back down. I can hear her snoring. And this little cat is my 2-year-old cat Phoebe. She has what's called feline herpes, and the herpes virus bores, it's not the same as with human, it bores holes in their sinus, and so she has a lot of breathing problems. She has her own little nebulizer, bless her. So yeah, she gets quite snuffly and sneezy, and there's usually cat snot everywhere. Poor little thing. Working our way around. This is our last red. And now we change to white, skip that little one here, we're going in here. Slip stitch. And we finish with our white single crochets. Alright, our next round is going to be again 9 white, 3, 4, 5, 6, oh hang on, how many have I got here? 6, 7, 8, 9, 6 at the end, and 9 in the middle of red. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright, single crochet for your first one. Change your stitch marker. And your last white is your white. Skip your little slip stitch, go into your red stitch here, 2 extra. We're doing a slip stitch for our colour change. And we continue with our single crochet, adding the hair. end of our red. We now have this last red stitch to go through here. It's going to be a colour change to the white. So go through and do a slip stitch. Skip that slip stitch here and go into your real stitch. And we complete our round with our white bands. See, it's starting to happen. So our next round, we're going to do 8 in white. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's 8. Check, yes. Yes, 8. And 9 in red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Followed by 7 in white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and one more, 7. Alright, here we go. Change your stitch marker to this new stitch. Careful not to loop your hair into your, like if you get one of these stuck on here, you don't want to by accident do your stitch. Alright, so now I'm moving to my red. I'm going through the last white, putting my 2 red on. Slip stitch. I like to get everything out the way as I put through. Oopsie, come here you. While this does use a lot of bands, I think the effect is quite great. If you remember, I did this effect for a fuzzy ball, and I just think it looks superb. Somebody was complaining today on my channel. One of the comments was, everything I make from you has broken. Well, a couple of reasons. Firstly, make sure you use quality bands. Don't use cheap knockoffs. Use nice bands. And make sure that you are tying off correctly and tightly. And make sure your bands don't break. Make sure you lubricate them occasionally, and you can do that using white mineral oil, which is really cheap. You get a massive great big bottle from the pharmacy for like $2 versus the itty bitty bottles that you can buy from Rainbow Loom, which are very expensive. So white mineral oil will do the trick. This is our last red stitch here. We're doing a color change. So slip stitch. Skip your slip stitch here and go through your real stitch, and we finish off with our single crochet. And sadly, rubber bands will break. I mean, that's just the nature of the material that we're using. If you do the pattern in yarn, it will not. Oh, now look at this. Oh no, I'm right. I thought I had an extra stitch, that would have been bad. There we go, perfecto. Alright, so here we're at now. Our next round is round 6 of our single crochets, just our single crochets. 7 white, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 7 at the other end. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and in the middle we have 10 red. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Alright, this is our first one for this round, so change your stitch marker to it. Through this last white stitch. I have to say I'm finding it very amusing. I've been away from doing this for quite some time now, and I look at some of the people who are putting things up, and their crochet patterns, and they're claiming them as their own because they're doing them in Loom Bands, and I'm sure the people that are creating these patterns in crochet would be turning in their grave if they knew that somebody was stealing their copyright. Really, really wrong. If you are copying a crochet pattern and converting it into Loom Bands, please remember, it is not your design. It is a design done by the yarn worker, not you. Plagiarizing somebody else's pattern is why so many of us stopped doing this. I've seen tiny tots out there that people have changed the tiny tot and, you know, created their own little version of something, but they don't give me credit for the base of it, which is just crazy. First little stitch here is going to be a slip stitch into white, and around we go. Same with the Izzy Busy doll. If you change the colour and make it into something else, it's still my pattern for the Izzy Busy doll. Just give credit. And that's all that people would ask, and they would be more than happy for you to show off your stuff. Next round. 8 in white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ooh, 8. 7 in red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 9 in white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bless you. 6, 7, 8, 9. See, I told you. Cat sneezes everywhere. Change your stitch marker to your first stitch of this round. Now you'll notice that we have this next white stitch going through. You're missing this. You're going through your last red, your first red here. And now we're going into the red. So through, add 2, grab your band, you're doing a slip stitch for your colour change. The colour changing from this one into white. Make sure you don't have extras there. There we go. So slip stitch into white. Make sure you don't pick up an extra stitch by going into that slip stitch. We really want the real stitch, otherwise you're going to have too many stitches. Our next and final round of just single crochet is 9 in white. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 4 in red. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 11 in white. 3, 4, 5. Oops, broken band. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We'll ditch that broken band. We'll put that over here. So let's do this. Move your stitch marker. Here we go. This is our last white stitch, but we're going through because we've still got one more. Skip your little slip stitch here, go into that red stitch. We're still using white, so we don't add extra. Now we're going to red, so we go through the next red stitch, add our 2 extra for the hair, and we have 4 stitches to do this to. So here's number 1. Oh, slip stitch because it's a colour change. And into the next one. And this is our last red. We're colour changing into white into this one here. So slip stitch. And then slip stitch in this last red stitch. I'm sorry, regular single crochet, skip the slip stitch here and into the real stitch, and we single crochet white to the end of the round. On next round we're starting our decreases, so it's 2 single crochets followed by a decrease. It is all going to be white. We're not having to use the red anymore, but you are going to have to count. So our first single crochet, move your stitch marker, second single crochet and a decrease. You're going in the outside loop of the following 2 stitches, okay, and doing a decrease, single crochet, single crochet and decrease these last 2 stitches. Now where you have the slip stitch, you've got to be careful, okay, so this is our single crochet in here, and then you're missing the slip stitch and going into the red stitch here and doing a second single crochet, and then these next 2 red back loops are a decrease. The last red stitch here is a single crochet, followed you have a slip stitch here in white, so go through the real stitch, single crochet, and then these next 2 loops decrease. Single crochet, single crochet, decrease. Single crochet, single crochet, and you finish on a decrease. You should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18 is on your hook. Our last round for the minute for the head is single crochet decrease. So single crochet, move your stitch marker, decrease, single crochet, decrease, single crochet. Oops, did I miss one? I did, look, did you see that? I nearly skipped a stitch. This is the single crochet. You don't want to do that, otherwise it leaves a whopping great big hole. Decrease. Oh, snoring there, Phoebe baby. Single crochet. She's snoring her head off. And decrease. Somebody else is noshing down on treats. Single crochet, decrease, single crochet, and you finish on a decrease. If you don't finish on a decrease, you know you've gone wrong somewhere. You know you've messed up a stitch. You've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12 is on your hook. Now we're going to do the neck and we'll finish at the neck. This is basically the head, okay, but we're going to do the neck. The neck, you go through the back post, okay, so you're pushing your hook through the stitch like so and popping out through the next stitch so that you have this part on your hook. Again, if you need to, look at my tips and tricks, the Loomigurumi tips and tricks. There's a playlist. It will show you clearly how to do that. Slip that stitch on and do a loop. Okay, so that's a slip stitch, and basically we're going to go through the next one and we're doing this all the way around. It's just a single crochet in this back post. Actually, I never know whether to call it a back post or a front post. It's the front of the work. If we were in crochet, it would be the front post, but because we're in Loomigurumi, it's probably the back post. The side of the work facing away from you. All the way around, and you should have 12. Okay, so we will count that. This gives the neck just a little bit of strength. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is on my hook. I'm going through my first one and I'm going to do a single crochet and I'm going to put my stitch marker on. It's followed by an increase. So we're going from 12 to 24. So 1 and 2, single crochet, increase. A little snorer. Increase, single crochet, oops, another broken band. This is an increase, single crochet, increase, single crochet, finish on an increase. And this is the base of our clown head. I'm going to pop my stitch marker, whoops, come back here you, that's my last little stitch here. I'm going to take my stitch marker and pop, I'm going to add my stitch to it. Okay, so I've got my last stitch and my first stitch. And this is the base head for our clown. Alright, you're going to need this for when we're making all of these. Okay, I will catch you back. Do a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.